Hi, everyone. Today, I have the honor to interview the board member, the executive director, and the founder of Pure Esperanza. I will introduce to you Esperanza. Hi, Esperanza. How are you?
Hey, Beverly, I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your podcast. And I'm looking forward to getting into some juicy conversation.
It's a pleasure. Before we go in, can you share with us who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am an energy medicine practitioner and holistic educator. So my life has been a path of learning about our well-being, our development as human beings, and my connection as far as my ancient lineage goes to that spiritual development and the evolution of humanity itself. And that was one of the things that connected me with Waldorf education and why I was a Waldorf teacher for many years. And energy medicine has been part of my upbringing and the understanding that I received from my father, who was a metaphysician, and lots of organizations along the way and people that were my mentors and teachers along the way. I also had a vision at about 18, and that was to begin a holistic center. And I didn't know exactly always how that was going to work out, because every decade or so I would revisit that idea and think about the location I was in and the group of people that I was with. But it really didn't come into fruition until about 2019, when the organization Pure Esperanza began taking form. And it was really to establish a center, a holistic center that would encompass an international scale of practitioners, educators, healers, leaders, and people that were, and artists as well, people that were all in the consciousness movement and that felt anchored to this consciousness shift that we are moving through at this time. And that's what we began to form. You can get more information on our website about that, but that's kind of the synopsis in a nutshell of what we began to grow and how it's evolved in the last few years from an online presence and then going into what will be a metaverse, because we believe that is one way to anchor the ancient wisdom technologies and the future of technology with the youth and people at a time that perhaps there will be more technology, and connect them to the natural order and connect them to empowering themselves, because that's really what our organization is about, is really coming into this knowingness of how we evolve in our consciousness to be the creators of our own life.
Interesting. And when you were saying actually about consciousness, Pure Esperanza is focusing on 6 elements, intersectional living. Can you share a little bit about that?
So the intersectional living is a model that encompasses not just holistic view of ourself individually, body, mind, and soul, but it begins to look at a holistic perspective and approach to how we connect with all pieces of our life. So we look at that as 6 areas that we cross over in the course of our life experience. So we have education, we have healing, we have arts, and then business, social global awareness, and environment. And those 6 elements we cross over. And what we would like to allow people to experience, or to facilitate experiences for people to begin on their journey, is to discover for themselves. We want to provide the opportunities for them to see what that cross section is with the intersectional living. So an easy example that I can think of is, let's say someone is interested in healing themselves, and maybe they're working on something in the physical body or in the emotional body or in the mental body, and they begin to make a connection with food and how it works in our system, and what that means in terms of the quality and the types of foods for our unique system, and how we can improve our well-being by the nutrition that we take into our body.
Mhm.
And then our organization offers on the environmental side an aspect about biodynamics or permaculture. And there's an intersection there of not just someone who's interested in the environment and the earth, and what positive attributes there are that benefit us as a whole, but begin to see the cross section between sustainable food that has a living life force that works to activate and stimulate and provide a healing in our own systems. And then we can see the crossover between healing and environment. But that's just one example of how people on either side of the environmental aspect of why we care for our earth and why we're connected with our earth and how our human body works and how our, someone else who's interested in healing, but they can actually begin to see the blend. And that approach is actually in that model available to us at every level, whether we're working in business and we're looking at how we draw these deeper connections through our education, through arts, why we develop arts in ourselves as an expression, and why we experience art too, because some people want to learn more by coming through their intellect or some experience of that nature, like a class or a workshop, and other people might just be enjoying what it is to walk in a room full of paintings or listen to a beautiful music. And they might see then the intersection between when you're having that kind of experience and all of a sudden the frequency, the energy frequency, the vibration begins to change and shift consciousness. That's why we have so many people now too that are coming out with all types of binaural beats, all types of different sound. And I mean, of course, that's ancient. People have used gongs and crystal bowls and all kinds of things like that for a long period of time. But to see the harmonizing qualities of those frequencies, and that's really what we're talking about. I mean, I'm an energy medicine practitioner in my private practice, and I work with clients at that level of energy. And Pure Esperanza isn't working exactly in the modality that I am, because there are many people working in many modalities of energy. But what we're talking about is really about raising that frequency of energy, and all of that we believe is that pure consciousness that exists and obviously is the core of the well-being, how we experience life.
I agree. And when you were talking about the arts for the painting, because I know some people use the painting to heal, so it can be combined with the healing, because
it's so much. I mean, it's so vast, it's infinite, and it's incredible. And we just feel that we can be a vessel or a chalice, as far as the organization Pure Esperanza goes, to hold those pieces, because we can get it. I mean, we can get into color therapy and music therapy and the spoken word. I mean, that's used therapeutically, and there are just, in different modalities, including Waldorf education, we can see that pedagogy uses curative movement and sound. And, all of those come in different ways and different forms. Those are just some of like how many there are available to us. We can talk about food. We can talk about, I don't know if people out there have seen it, but there's different little quotes that talk about like finding your energy, finding, the medicine that works for you, because the ancient wisdoms really knew of this. They really knew of how we connect with nature. And we can see all of these interwoven within nature. But there are so many ways that we can heal ourselves, and the opportunities to see and experience how people use all the different types of energy frequencies that are out there, and can apply them practically in different sections of their life, because there was always this divide. And I think that's part of our evolution right now between spirit and physical. And so to bring them together, to continue to blend them and integrate them, that's really right now where we're at, including evolving those multidimensional parts of our own self. So even this conversation that we're having, this may not have been a conversation that could have been had a few decades back. It's becoming more in the mainstream consciousness. So in the collective consciousness, there's a shift that's going on already. And so now we're seeing, the work of some people that have been, doing these kinds of talks for 50 years or more, but now we're seeing it more. And this is like the little incremental steps that we take as human beings as we begin to evolve, except now, as you have been experiencing yourself, and I know probably many of your listeners are, it's happening on such a multitude, a scale globally, and I would say universally, that's what's happening right now. And so we're seeing lots of different shifts and lots of breakdown and collapse of systems in different ways so that something new can be born out of it.
It's really interesting, and I like the change, the way things change, and we see it little by little, and then sometimes we think, oh, but I saw it like many years ago, but I didn't think it was really important, because people start to notice a few things that is actually accurate for now. Yeah.
I think that's so. And I think even in our own life, it's like that. I feel like there's a lot of times that we have an experience or a theme, so to speak, about our life journey, and it keeps appearing and appearing. And, we can change the scenery on that. Maybe it's a new job, maybe it's a new relationship, maybe there's, maybe you create a family and there's relationships there, whatever that might be. And you move to a different place, so you're changing scenery, but the theme of what you're learning is still coming and coming and coming until we fully can grasp that theme or that lesson that's coming for us and in our time. And sometimes, we live a whole lot of life and realize that we've had this same kind of lesson that keeps appearing in different ways, and once you even learn the lesson, then it's like another side to that lesson. It's like maybe deeper, or maybe it's like, I always think of like, oh, the ante's been upped, like now it's like gets taken to another level, because we just keep evolving this way. And that's the very nature of consciousness. That is what consciousness is.
Mm-hmm. And Pure Esperanza have a global community.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you?
Yeah, that's how we met you, Beverly. So thankful. So we have an international board, and we are looking to continue to grow Pure Esperanza that way. So with an online presence in this digital time that we're living in, of course, that's more accessible and doable for us. But what we're looking to do is take it to that next level of the metaverse. And there's a lot of controversy around that and how that can work and how AI is working and all those kinds of things. And I would say, from a personal standpoint, and I would venture to say that the board feels this way too, as far as the leaders of Pure Esperanza, that it's important to always understand the magnitude of the power that we have. So wherever we focus and direct our attention and energy, that's where we can contribute, or that's where we manifest, actually. And if we're focused on something constructive, and that's our intention, that's really what we come to on the open canvas of creating something. Before we even get there, we just come to it with that intention and that energy, and we apply everything we know to move in that direction. So I always feel like there's always going to be elements of what could be considered positive or negative or light or dark, or all these kinds of things. But we only can be accountable for what we bring to that, what our intention is. So we want to create something constructive, because we already know that, of course, there's lots of things involved with technologies and AI and all kinds of things that make us question, like, is this an affront to humanity, And on the other hand, it's like, wait a minute, if we come from the premise that we can work with everything, that everything can be of service, and that how do we, there's an old saying in the shamanic practices that I have, is that the goal of this life is to leave this earth without any enemies, no enemies at all. So how do we work with things, because then as soon as we even think about working with something, we're already in collaboration. that is our innate power to be co-creators. So how we come into that collaboration with whatever experiences we have, and we can take our own lives and just think about different situations we've had, and when we come into conflict, what arises out of that. And when we approach it from a harmonizing factor, that we're already thinking of the solution or how to resolve or how to collaborate, the door becomes much more widened to bring in the different elements that can create something that's more peaceful. So we're looking to create something peaceful and harmonizing so that individuals, particularly the youth going forward, and I do have grandchildren, so I can already see how technology is infiltrated in their life. And I can see how it's already in mine. You know, I've already lived to see a lot of those changes of technology that have happened in a pretty fast period of time, you know, in an accelerated pace, and they continue to move that way. So how to enter a space like a metaverse that allows us to be not defined by boundaries. And I think in many ways, it is also a reflection of consciousness itself, that we're moving towards a quantum consciousness where there are no defined boundaries, where there is an inkling that space and matter are shifting, and that experiences are shifting, time is shifting. We've all had the experience of time that seems like it lasts forever, time that seems like, you know, so all these kinds of things that are happening, I think are a reflection of this now new form called the metaverse that is happening too, where we're actually reaching into kind of boundless and limitless space and time.
Mhm.
And now the trick to that, like it is with everything, is how do we use it? How do we, because these tools we get so many tools, how do we use them, you know? And then that's a whole other development of our own self-discipline. And that self-discipline is something that we're learning our whole life, you know. And you know, there were previous generations where that had negative connotations because, you know, the idea of discipline had been coming from an authoritative type of background in previous generations, from a patriarch system, and, you know, just different things that had happened in our human like epochs over cultures and centuries. But now when we're talking about how to move into a consciousness where we have this self, I like the idea of self authorship. You know, we become the creators of our life. We become those that are directing and moving our attention, and we are accountable to ourselves, you know, and the intention that we bring to every morning, how we wake up and how we choose to direct the energy. And the more awareness we have of the energy we have, we understand how powerful and what a gift it is to have this life, and how we can apply it and use it. And of course, with that is our individual growth and development, and that's reflected out into the collective community. And these are the incremental pieces of the microcosm of the macrocosm, and how everything is moving and shifting. And it's a joy. That's, for me, that's a joy to be here at this time in this way.
Yeah, it's a joy. It's we see so many, like you mentioned, so many shifts, so many, and it goes fast. You know, in the morning you have that experience, and in the afternoon you're all the way on the opposite. So it's really interesting to be here at this time to experience it.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned as well, is we have all the technology, we have all the tools, but it's only the way we are going to use it that we'll be able to see if it's bad or good. Because everything, we can say everything is good and everything is bad. It's only the way you use it.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. And I think that it's an interesting time because, you know, we're talking about all these different technologies and things. There have been so many technologies on this earth before. You know, whether you're a believer of civilizations that existed with more advanced technologies like Lemuria or Atlantis, you know, Lemuria being older than Atlantis, and before then, even if you're not familiar with them, but to understand that there are a lot of things that we can't explain, that science has thought about, like how did these crops, exist on the earth, and how did the Egyptians build pyramids or whatever they are, whether they had influences from other intelligences or however that worked. There have been other technologies on this earth. And so I think for many of us who are working out of that stream of consciousness, we feel that this is a time where we get to perhaps bring some of these more advanced technologies back to the earth, because I feel like right now, even, when we're on our computers and there's all this technology and there's this, talk of AI and all these things that are chat GPT, all these kinds of things that are coming about, I feel like when we look at this in 20 years, it'll be like, oh, that was primitive. Kind of like when we see an old computer from the 1970s, or 80s, and it's like a big box, and, we know how things have become, like our phones, they become slimmer and more refined, and it's the same thing with everything, right? And so, I think that right now we're just at the cusp of like really starting to understand technologies. And I feel like many of us have used some of these technologies and are going to continue to be here, or continue to, others that are being born at this time are going to come in with these knowings, these wisdoms as well. And perhaps this time we have another opportunity to use more wisdom. It's one thing to attain the knowledge, maybe that was here before, but now to take that knowledge, and because it's been used or misused, or it didn't have that correct application for something that was constructive or harmonious with all and congruent with life itself, that now we have another opportunity. And what can we create with that? I mean, that to me is very exciting, to think that we can use it for something in a more constructive way for the highest good of all.
Yes. And Pure Esperanza have many resources and services. I saw you have a YouTube series, you have products and blogs.
Yes, yes. So online on our website, we have guest blog writers, and people contribute, and oftentimes they fit something that we're talking about that month. So there's a monthly newsletter that people can subscribe to, and of course those blogs are posted on the website as well. The YouTube channels has several free series. So the Pure Esperanza YouTube channel has most recently a well-being support series, and that talks about not just the education of well-being. It has several components that talk about specifics like gut health and how that's connected with our neurotransmitters and our brain health. And there are many different parts to how we work with, let's say, for instance, gut health, the mitochondria, and also talking about the endocannabinoid system, and all of these different pieces that can work to support our systems. So we have, this brain that's talking and speaking to our body, but it's not just our brain. It's like all the intelligence of what we consider three brains: the gut, the heart, the brain, actually, and going out to all these intelligences that are receiving signals. So the cells are receiving these signals and responding accordingly. So the possibilities that science is now broaching with creating longevity of life itself, how to create new cells, how to create an autophagy so that we can have a healthy turning on and turning off of cell activity so that we can create new cells, and just the stem cell activity itself. It's just amazing what is being done. So the Wellbeing Support Series touches on that, as well as it touches on some different products and things like that. And we know that there's a lot of those kinds of products that are out there now. We just want to further educate people so that they can make informed choices about where they're going and how they're getting their quality products, and how pure extractions and certificates of analysis and all those kinds of things on products do make a difference, so that you can really have something that is soluble and goes into your body and is easily, your body can easily translate and take in that that nutrition and help to support you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And beside Pure Esperanza, you also have your own private practice, right?
Yes. Yes.
Of
That's
medicine.
true.
Yeah, is energy medicine, right?
Yes, energy medicine. And I work with the South American medicine wheel, and that is connected to the Quechua Indians and Peruvian and Inca times. I'm also familiar with the North American medicine wheel, and that's kind of an intuitive recall that I have, as well as some other indigenous cultures that have influenced my work as well. But the energy medicine itself is something that I think I draw directly from nature itself. I like to work with the elements of earth, water, fire, and air, and also work with the four directions and how we work at those types of healing journeys that allow us to reclaim parts of our soul, retrieve them, how we work with energy that's around us. Sometimes we have strong connections, or I should say energetic connections, and they might be with people and situations that are around us currently, or that existed from before, maybe someone that's deceased. So I work with those types of elements, as well as the passing from one life stage to another. Look at those as kind of rites of passage, and how you can work with those specific elements to support a more foundational piece at that crossing, like a bridge that you're crossing from one point of life into another. So some of those experiences might be at puberty, they might be at an adult, or at an experience like your first child, or even the passing of a loved one, or the crossing over from this life to the next, or to the after. And so those are things that I create too in sacred space and ceremony with my clients as well. And I do dream work interpretation. I use some forms of divination as well. So I use some different animal cards and different types of oracle cards as well. And crystals, lots of different healing tools. They're all my healing tools. So I don't follow one per se. I've trained in Reiki in the past and other kinds of things like that too, but I don't deem myself as any one, or follow any specific thing. And I think that's the beautiful thing, that myself, and I know that the organization was formed this way too, as far as Pure Esperanza goes, that there is no one way. There are just an infinite amount of ways to understand ourselves, and to find the source within us that allows us to create a life experience that we want to have more peace with, and have more joy with, and have love, and that being the center that then emits out, like we are a sun, just emitting that out.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we can feel that love and energy that you want to share, you want to help. That's really wonderful. And if anyone wants to reach you or be part of Pure Esperanza, yeah, where can they reach? Is there any website? Yeah, there is a website.
Yes, pureesperanza.org. And I would say, when you get in there, it's an exploration itself. Once you go in, the navigation tools lead you to our story, so you can read more about ourselves, our individual board members, but you can read really about where we began and what we saw as the vision, and where we see ourselves going to, what we see ourselves offering in terms of a global scale. But I would also say becoming a universal platform. Slowly, I feel like the global is starting to wane, and we're starting to have more of this experience of a universal type of platform that we want to create. And besides that, you can find the products. And I would say when you get into the products, you can see not just natural products from tree essences, the wisdom of the trees and how they work with us in our systems, and sacred Egyptian oils that are pure extractions coming from plants and roots, flowers that work with our energy centers specifically, healing wearables like what I have on today that have been designed with a quartz crystal or a crystal, and installed programming for higher frequencies as well through sound. And it's just amazing to see how we can work with all these different things. And in books that have been written about self-transformation, and some different ones, you know, some are helping us to explore and question life and our experience, and others are to enjoy, to have a sense of other places and other types of development that happen in a more organic way, just through hearing other stories and other experiences that are going on. Some of them are about life lessons and that type of transformation. So lots of different things there to look at and to experience there, as well as some of the events that we have that are coming up. We'll be getting more coming up in this 2024 year. We are concentrating on the series right now, but you have access to the series there if you don't go to YouTube directly. So there's lots of different ways to go there. And then as far as myself personally, that's esperanzasmith.com. And that will lead you to what the services are, description of the services, and things that might resonate with you if you're working personally on your own healing journey and you would like to have some assistance and guidance with that. It would be an honor to help support that as well.
Thank you. I will add all the links below the video, so anyone want to reach, just a click and you can directly access to the website.
Great. And one last thing I wanted to mention, Pure Esperanza would not be Pure Esperanza unless it did not form out of this premise of a global community. So Beverly, you're part of that, and so are other individuals. So services there, specific individuals that are working in specific modalities and their own training from their own experience. The integrity that's there on the global community is really profound. So take a look at that. There's a bio on every individual that's involved with Pure Esperanza and what their services are as well, because I think that that's really the unique part of it, that we're not promoting one over another. We realize and we value how important it is that we're all collectively working together, and that we're all working towards the same endeavor of raising and moving that consciousness, expanding it.
Exactly. Is there anything that you would like to share before we closing? Anything that you would like to share with the audience?
I would just encourage you to find moments of stillness, and that has been overlooked, I think, for such a long time, as you're not doing anything, because we've come out of a consciousness that was very inclined towards doing as being a visible goal or achievement, and that somehow equated to what seemed like success for individuals. But I would say to find your own rhythm, to find the own beat of your heart, you have to find that stillness. And that brings us to a part of this consciousness shift that's occurring, which is understanding how to be. And that being aspect that allows us to be in stillness, allows us to reconnect and hear that inner beat that's going on of our heart, to be able to hear that inner wisdom that lives in all of us, and to also feel that resonation when it's around us too, what aligns with us in that, from that space. And that's what we're really wanting to help individuals connect with. So whether you're working with other people or other organizations, it doesn't matter as much as that connection that you have within yourself. Everything out of there then can be a reflection that kind of, it enhances or enriches it more in different ways. But that part of connecting with yourself, that's really the integral part of the work that we're all doing right now, is how to reconnect in that way. We can even look at things as recent as the pandemic and things like that, that brought us into a space that allowed us to connect more that way. So all these things that are experiencing in your life and in the world, we can find that stillness, to find that reconnection, to help guide us on a day-to-day basis. And that brings us to more mindful practices, that brings us to more awareness, that brings us to what we need for our well-being, which is, different. What is for me is not exactly the same for someone else, So, but finding that connection there is the piece that I would just really want to part with today. And that is something that allows us to grow our trust in ourselves, to grow into that deeper listening capacity, and out of that have courage to move forward in a more fearless way by grounding ourselves with that inner knowing, that inner wisdom. That's what I wish to part. Yeah.
Well said, Esperanza. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone. Please like and share the information with anyone who you think will need to hear it. Thank you, Esperanza.
Thank you so much, Beverly. Thank you for the service that you're doing. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
May we all connect.
Bye. Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.